Whatever happened to grace? Where is grace? You know, there was a time when people used to treat each other as people. People used to see the humanity in one another. And people used to show more understanding and respect and used to value the other person a lot more than they do now. Sometimes you look around and you just can't help but wonder, where has it gone? Where has this sense of humanity and connection and mutual understanding gone? It's insane sometimes to see just how broken human relationships really are in this day and age. What do I mean by that? Let's take an example. Have you ever been in traffic, right? Let's say you're in traffic and you're driving and the light turns red, for example. The light turns red and then you're waiting. A few moments later, the light turns green. Before you even have time to look at the light, somebody's already beeping you to go. And it's not just a light beep either, it's more of a continuous, heavy, disruptive beeping before you even got a chance to look at the light. And that's just one example. I've seen this so many times. Or you see this also, let's say the light is not green, but let's say somebody is just making a turn or driving, even just driving on the highway and making, a mistake or whatnot, and needing to get into a lane at the last minute. And it's amazing to see just how unforgiving people can be. They won't let you go. They'll purposely block you even though there is an opportunity for them to go ahead. They will make a face, ignore you, or if they're bold enough, they'll even flip you off. And that's also quite common when in traffic or whatnot, or when taking the road. And you just can't help but wonder, before you beep that person, before you lay on your horn to get the person to do whatever it is that you want them to do, you can't help but, if you really pause to think about what that person is going through. Maybe they were distracted at the wheel, okay, let's say a phone or whatnot, which hopefully is not the case. And usually it's not the case. It's not a phone. It's usually just a split second that they need to think or process. Maybe they got a bad news that day. Maybe they woke up late. Maybe they're having aches and pains. Maybe they're dealing with a physical or emotional problem in that moment that's causing them to be a little bit more distant than they normally would be, or a little bit more disconnected with the activity at hand, which is driving. You never know. And it's definitely not wrong to, let's say in this example, beep somebody to get them to go, to get them to take action while driving. It's definitely not wrong to do that, because at the end of the day, that person did choose to get into a vehicle, which is a machine, right? A very dangerous, although useful machine. They did choose to get into a machine that day, and by making that choice, they have responsibilities as well. So it's perfectly reasonable to expect that they would, again, be responsible, be alert during the process that they're driving or they're operating this machine, and just be engaged in all activities that are going on at the time that they're driving or that they are behind the wheel. It's perfectly reasonable to expect that of anybody who chooses to get into their cars to drive for the day. However, there is a basic, bare minimum courtesy that people could give to each other. Why? Well, because they too have had moments where they're not at their best. They're not in tip top shape or tip top performance all the time. Let's say somebody is driving and they, at the last minute, want to cut the lane so they can get off the specific road that they're on or take an exit or whatnot. Okay, maybe it's not ideal for you that they would be cutting, but you can tell that they just made a mistake. They forgot something. They just want to cut the lane to hurry up and get back on track to what they were trying to accomplish, and you can tell that if you are another human being. If you're a different creature, fine. By all means, maybe you don't understand. But if you're a human being, you can kind of, if you're smart and have a minimum level of decency, you can kind of tell, okay, yeah, it's not great that this person should be cutting at the last minute like that, but they probably forgot something. They probably made a mistake. Something came up at the last minute that requires them to make such a sharp and last minute decision. So it only makes sense. And the odd thing about it too is the people that are laying on their horns and beeping people left and right and cursing people out, it's as if they never made a mistake on the road. They never had a need for somebody to be considerate of them. Okay. And it just makes you really pause and wonder about these people. Who does that? Who does that? Seriously. So, I mean, this is something to think about for sure. Maybe you are that person who is trying to be decent, trying to just be responsible, go to work while handling whatever problems are running through your head at the time. And then you have somebody or people beeping you left and right. Of course, it's your responsibility to drive responsibly every day and every time that you choose to operate this machine called a car or a vehicle of sorts. However, it's okay to cut yourself some slack sometimes if you are forgetful or if you're distant, as long as you're not making other choices that are against the safety of you, your passengers, or anybody else that's sharing the road with you at the time. On the other hand, if you are the person that's laying on the horn and beeping people left and right, not giving people a chance to even think about their next move, their next turn, their next crossing the light or whatnot, or not even giving people a chance to just be human on the road sometimes and just have a moment. And that's really all it is. Usually it's just a split second that you just give the person so they can decide or make a judgment call real quick. You don't have to lay on your horn for that. Okay, but if you are that person, the laying on the horn type of person, very short with people, inattentive, uncaring, disrespectful, and rude, impatient with people, it would be wise to ask yourself, if that were you on the other side of the equation, how would you feel about it? And B, it just makes you wonder, ask yourself, what kind of person are you on a daily basis? And it should make you really want to check yourself at that point. Because if you have no grace for others, if you are unable to show them understanding and patience and just recognize that they are human beings just like you, it should really cause you to pause and check yourself and also wonder, if I ever have a need, if I am ever in need, and that's the kind of response that I get from another person, how would I feel? And would I be okay with that? If I treat people, if somebody else treats me the same way that I'm treating others, how would I feel about that? Would I be okay with it? Hey, if the answer is yes, you would be okay with it, then so be it. I mean, sad but true, so be it. But if the answer is no, that you wouldn't be okay with that type of treatment, that you wouldn't feel good about it, then why carry it out? Why project that type of energy onto others when you're not on the receiving end of it? Because the day you become on the receiving end of the type of energy that you put out, it's gonna make you think. It's really gonna make you think. But until then, if you are the laying on the horn type of person, it just makes you a very unpleasant human being to be around, to interact with. Just too negative, impatient, short, lacking understanding, lacking sensitivity and humanity and care for others. So if this is a quality that you have and that you recognize as such, perhaps it's time to check yourself if you want to change. If you want to change. Not everybody wants to change. Sometimes people are very comfortable in who they are, regardless of how it affects other people. But the issue is on the table. Figure out which person you are and whether or not you should change. And if you think you should change, ask yourself, why? Why change? Okay, because sometimes you bring about change in your life and you don't have a foundation as to why you're doing it, which means, look, it's not going to last. You have to have a reason why you're changing in order for it to be sustainable. So think about it. Who are you, really? Only you can answer that.